Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Mark with Dan Irvin.
Well, today we're jumping into Mark chapter 3, and if you've followed along on this journey through Mark so far in this podcast, you know that Mark's gospel is fast-moving, action-packed, straight to the point, a lot going on in few verses. Mark's writing style. And so today in Mark chapter 3, we'll look at the first 6 verses, and we'll see his encounter with a man who was in need. And the Pharisees, again, trying to trap Jesus in this idea of, will you follow the Sabbath law, or will you go against what is right on the Sabbath? It's Mark chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." Then Jesus asked, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save a life or to kill?" But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger, deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, and he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus. So to understand this in a deeper context, I think it's important to look back at chapter 2 for a moment. You see, the Sabbath was such an important part of Jewish culture, of Jewish tradition, and at the heart of it, when it was created, it was meant to be a day God had given as a gift to cease from work, to consider all the work that God had done in people's lives, a time to pause, a time to reflect, a time to give all the glory and attention to God. But the Pharisees here were holding on a little too tightly to the traditional part of this ritual, causing them to miss the entire point of Sabbath and drawing them back towards the heart of God. And Jesus had this moment in the end of chapter 2 where he said, "The Sabbath was made for man, not the man for Sabbath." You see, Jesus was pointing them towards a greater truth, greater than this. The Sabbath was something that was greater than just being able to uphold a law. It was meant to be a gift for people to help them cultivate a greater heart of compassion and genuine kindness towards other people out of a response to recognizing what God had first done for them, the compassion, the kindness that God had offered towards them. And here we see Jesus again caught in the middle of this Sabbath dilemma. And on one hand, if Jesus heals this man, which he does, then he would be violating the Sabbath. He would be healing on a Sabbath, which was against their practice. And then if he doesn't heal this man on the Sabbath, the Pharisees could say, well, here's Jesus. Maybe he doesn't have power at all. Maybe he's not the Son of God. Or maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he's not compassionate at all. So Jesus made this man stand up in front of the crowd. And Jesus didn't need to make him stand up in front of the crowd in order for Jesus to heal him. We know that Jesus has healed people just by passing by or someone touching his cloak and from a distance. But this situation, Jesus had this man stand up in front of the crowd. And I want you for a moment to imagine what it must have been like for this man. What was everyone saying around him as he stood up in front of the crowd? What was this man thinking? All the eyes, all the attention was on him. Was this perhaps a moment that Jesus wanted this man to be able to stand up in front of the crowd and remember for the rest of his life, this is when your life changed. This is something that I did for you. Even though you were afraid, even though you were scared, I want you to remember this moment. I don't know if you've had a moment like that. I don't know if you consider yourself a follower of Jesus and you've been in a situation where all the eyes were on you and people were wondering and asking, what is it that you will say in this situation? Maybe it's a family gathering or a debate, in your office at the water cooler. I don't know what it was like for you, if you've ever had that situation. But Jesus, in this instance, he steps in and he demonstrates his compassion, his divine power, his authority for caring about people that were mistreated, that were beat up, that were out without hope. You see, the Pharisees were hard and rigid in their hearts, and they were unable to see the true meaning behind Sabbath. So today, consider just this one question. Do you know in the depths of your soul the compassion, the kindness, the mercy that Jesus offers you every day, that he offered this man.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.